Yo, what is it going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV late at night recording this, just trying to get it going. We are back for some more of the MCU where we actually have, I believe, a first watch for me with the standalone Black Widow film. This is the first of a few movies actually kind of wrapping up here that are going to be first watches for me, and I was actually really excited to watch this, and I'm really excited to talk about it with you guys today. We are now jumping ahead to the 2020s era of Marvel. I'm pretty excited about that. Obviously, we will skip back a little bit, but this may be the newest film that I will be covering for now in the MCU. I mean, don't worry, I will be watching the super new films probably in the next year or so, at least until the new Avengers film comes out. We'll have to get it done by then, of course, but we got the foundational films to cover first, so we're just gonna go with that, and then I might get into like some Game of Thrones stuff later on. I'm not really sure the plans. We have a lot of stuff to watch still. Scarlett Johansson obviously gets center stage here with some help from the absolutely gorgeous Florence Pugh. David Harbour is always a great guy to have in a film as well, and in the TV show Stranger Things. William Hurt as Ross was cool to sort of have in here, and you get cameos, albeit pictures pretty much, from some of the other MCU pieces. Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman is in here. We will get to him soon. Pieces like that. So will Black Widow hold her weight in her own film? Well, let's find out. So getting into the premise of what this film is about, Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. This is kind of her whole backstory. This is like the standalone film telling the origin story of her character. And that's exactly what like the Joker from 2019 did with that character, and all the other Marvel movies like Iron Man and whatnot. I know the Joker's not a Marvel movie, but you get me. Pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down, the Taskmaster, Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationship left in her wake long before she became an Avenger. I will say a few of the details here seem murky, like yeah, I could have just read the comic books, but the way they told the backstory super briefly was sort of bleh, and that is something that I have noticed with Marvel even in some of the major successes in this franchise. They sort of breeze over a lot of things with the impression that every viewer would have already read the comic books or even remembered something that happened 5+ movies ago. It's just kind of like the mix-up of the whole multiverse situation. I know I'm not the only one that thinks this. Maybe I am. I don't know. Let me know in the comments your thoughts overall on this movie. It's a very unique and intriguing origin story compared to the other characters, but again, I would have to watch a YouTube video to grasp what's going on at times here. So getting into the good, obviously I am not watching this when it released, but just for some context, I believe this was the first film to drop for Marvel post-COVID, and there had to have been so many expectations going into it. I don't know, I kind of tuned out of the MCU when it lost its steam kind of post-Avengers, and like that was kind of like perfect timing because again, COVID rolled in, but I would assume so. I would assume that people were very excited about this and thought, y'all better deliver on this, you know, that sort of thing. And for it to be as good as it is, good enough to leave, it's that in itself is a good part of this movie. It sucks that fans had to wait for so long for a solo film for her, as that character was just stockpiling intrigue for years, but when it finally got here, it was a good one. And again, I didn't see the theatrical release or anything like that. Scarlett Johansson is a pretty good actress, but we can talk about the character a little bit later. I do think she is a great actress and she is made for a great addition to the MCU, but there you go. At the forefront of this film is just the action sequences, of course. This is kind of like an assassin style action thriller, similar to like a John Wick franchise and even like a James Bond. I can liken this to. Black Widow's kind of like the female James Bond, if I'm being honest with you. That genre and everything that comes with that had to be a focus, and it definitely was in this film. This movie is executed well enough also that it didn't even need to be an MCU movie. It could have been its own thing. Just swap out the characters and the dialogue and boom, there you go, you have a spy film. I think that's a great quality. Loved a lot of stuff here. The avalanche sequence, all of the Red Roof fighting, that was cool overall. They executed basically every action sequence well. We can discuss some of the shortcomings in that department maybe a little later. I don't know if I talked about it too much. There's also some story gap in between films and some needles that needed threading, and for this movie to get released, that is satisfying in itself. I think this movie is very unique compared to most Marvel films as well. Again, you know, unique genre, backstory, it really sets itself apart, and I love that. It really shows the versatility in the writer's room over at Marvel, just the fact that they can damn near just switch genres every time and make a great movie out of it. I think they do good with that. For a Black Widow movie, also a plus here. Some people didn't really like this, but I think it was more comical than I thought, which obviously some characters and things take a little over the top at times. Again, more on a specific character actually later, but it added to the enjoyability. And again, for a character as robotic and stiff normally as Black Widow, I think they did a good job at kind of brightening up her palette literally as well. You know, she's wearing a white suit you can see in the movie poster, and making her character a little bit more likable. I don't think it did too much to make her more likable, but I think it did enough. I honestly found it crazy too how much I liked Florence Pugh in here more than Scarlett Johansson. I think Florence Pugh as Yelena was probably the best part of the film, which is kind of crazy because the name in the title is Black Widow and that is Natasha Romanoff, but Yelena was great here. She was sarcastic and funny, you know, while also kicking ass and basically being the reason Jerk Off, or whatever that fuck's name is, dies and she saved the day. We'll talk about him a little bit later, quite briefly actually, because I don't really give a shit about him. It may seem weird that she stole the spotlight from Black Widow, and that can be a good and bad thing, but I actually kind of liked it here. I really only know Florence from Midsommar, being the horror geek that I used to be, so it's cool to sort of learn that she was involved and will apparently still be involved in the future with the MCU. I think she was in the Thunderbolts film as well. She pretty much took Black Widow's place in that movie, I'm pretty sure. And I also like just how dark this film can get at times. One more thing, just this fucked up childhood, take them from their families and turn them into assassins type of origin story. I think that's great. I know it sounds messed up, but part of me loves like the surrealism of that, and you guys watch my videos, you guys know I like surrealism, so that's great. Getting into the bad, I don't remember if I added to this, but one of the only bad things about the film to me is David Harbour's character. I think David Harbour's a great actor, but his character is I mean, I liked when he was reserved and seemed like he was good at something kind of grounded at the beginning, but once he got out of prison, the stock of his character just plummeted to me. I don't know. I did not like his character in the second half of this film. When, you know, you meet him in prison, he's like arm wrestling and acting like a fucking jackass. He's got the typical, like, stereotypical movie character prison guy with the gold cap teeth and the tattoos, and it's like, that's such a weird, like, forced thing that Marvel did, and it really didn't stick for me. He's too goofy. He doesn't really take anything serious, even though this is for the best, at least for his adopted daughters. Like, everything he's doing is basically for the best of his daughters, and he's just kind of laughing through it all, like, not giving a shit, and that's not a great quality in a father, and you can understand at times why Natasha gets fucking pissed at him. Yelena even gets pissed at him at times. It's like, come on, man, like, what are we doing here? Have some social awareness. He just kind of like moseyed his way through things, like fight scenes, acted like a drunkie, which maybe that's just what prison did to him, but I didn't like that at all. Again, it kind of plays into this weird stereotype, like a character goes to prison and just fucking completely changes them, and that's realistic, like that happens in real life, but really, man, I don't know. He has no remorse for anything too. He's not a very personable person. I don't really know what else to say about him. Also, I think just the fact that it took them so long to release this film, COVID is kind of an excuse, and maybe they just wanted to focus on the Avengers stuff, even though this movie took place in between that, so there really isn't that much of an excuse to not drop this movie sooner. It's nice that it's here, but we honestly could have gotten this film 5 or 6 years before we did, so it's whatever. And we waited this long, and she isn't even really the main character, which is, I don't know. The villains just aren't great either. Just kind of touching on that real quick before we get into the mixed, I think Taskmaster is cool, and the whole backstory behind that with Antonia being Dreykov's daughter, but Dreykov is just dumb. Super unmemorable character, one of the least memorable villains in all of the universe. I just didn't really care for him at all. Getting into the this is the mixed section of the video, I think the character of Black Widow is sort of okay to me because, yeah, in this film she really brings out her personality with like this introduction to her past, but just her nonchalance and her demeanor is kind of whatever to me. It doesn't really make her character super gripping or interesting, and that was kind of the problem she was having in some of the other films she was involved in. I like the Marvel characters that have like a bright yet cynical attitude. Those are the characters you're gonna get like my favorite, my vote for. You get Iron Man, Rocket, guys like that, and when you have a character that's just there to do missions, it's kind of bleh. And that's kind of one of the major reasons why she's not like a highlight character in her own movie, because she's just kind of bleh, just kind of there. I think the whole family thing was okay too. I don't know, like I loved it at the beginning of the film. I adored it, where you have this what seems to be normal family bonding with each other, just a normal looking family, and then boom, something crazy happens, and wow, her parents work for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something, you know? That was a really cool angle to kind of start the film with. I liked how they made not being relatives work at that point, and you didn't even realize that they weren't really relatives until the first climax of the movie happened with that whole action scene, and then you get this cut scene of like Natasha and Yelena getting taken from their family and all this stuff, and like the backstory of how like the Black Widows are created. That was cool, but then again, that second half, when the father gets out of jail, when the Red Guardian, whatever you want to call him, Alexei, gets out of jail, it's like, what the fuck, this is strange. I didn't really like it. Again, it made for some great great scenes and it was awesome. It built intrigue at the beginning of the film, but when they reunite, I think that's a problem. We talked about, again, David Harbour's character earlier, but my god, the change of pace from serious spy movie to goofy action, I don't know if I liked that, and that signified it when they got back together, and I don't think I really liked that. There are quite a few corny callbacks to the family before, even though these girls just got ripped from their parents for Natasha twice now. It made no sense at all to have like these weird sentimental moments when you don't even really fuck with these people. Like Yelena was kind of forgiving, and honestly that could have been thrown in the bad, just how she handled that, but let me just leave it here as it kind of ties into everything else, whatever. Yelena and Natasha were sadly the only characters I cared about also, which is kind of mixed for me. Those are the only two characters I cared about. Milena has this weird pump fake traitor angle, which is kind of cool, but other than that, nothing super memorable about her. She's just kind of this NPC-ish character, kind of like Black Widow, which is I'm sure where she got that from, kind of leading up to this movie. So getting into the review, pull up the tier list. I think this movie's just fine. I don't think it's anything great. It does what it needs to do without doing too much or being too much of a spectacle. That's fine. I'm satisfied with it, which satisfactory is 7 to 7.9. We're gonna go ahead and give this a 7.5 out of 10. The Russian nature of a few of the characters is a little over the top, but a lot of it is forgivable given how great, although and anticlimactic, the action scenes were. Now I didn't really touch on like the anticlimactic stuff of the third act. I didn't really want to make this video too long, as a lot of my previous videos have been pretty long, but it's there. Also, it really gives you a superhuman version of John Wick, which I guess it's like Ballerina on steroids with all of the gadgets and super strengths. I haven't watched that film, but still there are some equivalences, and I think that's cool. Did the family need to get involved? I don't really think so. It's still a fun watch. It's a 7.5 out of 10, just kind of reiterating that. It's satisfactory. It does what it needs to do. I think it's definitely good for a Black Widow standalone, as there were concerns going into this that her character was too bland for her own movie. Scarlett does a good job of kind of bringing some emotion out of her. Again, she doesn't do too much, but I think it is a fine addition to the MCU. Another one of those kind of like middle of the pack, which we've been covering a lot of movies like that recently, but that's fine. I think Marvel's consistently at least decent enough, and this is another example of that. So with that being said, now guys, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Again, I'm recording this on my phone webcam. It's actually doing pretty good. Hopefully you guys enjoy the videos. Hopefully they don't really dip in quality for you. Honestly, my phone camera does just fine. iPhones have pretty good cameras. I'm not going to keep it like that. Obviously I have my Logitech coming in the mail, but there you have it. Check out the socials, do whatever you need to do. I'm out. GZTV.